this is what, number 17, okay, so we're trying to resolve this. This expression, 1 minus cosine squared, should jump out at you. You should recognize that as sine squared. And this is sine over sine squared, which is 1 over sine, which is cosecant. That should be pretty obvious to check out, okay? Next one is this number 18. 18 is probably one of the most detailed problems. And if I could avoid it, I would avoid it, okay? And basically, because the only thing you can do is turn everything into sines and cosines, okay? Now, you can do multiple steps at once. This program cannot. But so then cotangent, of course, is cosine over sine. Everything is going to be, this is my suggestion to you, everything is turned into sines and cosines, and then just watch your fractions from there, and you should be able to show both sides are equal, okay? That's your advice on that. I'm not doing the problem, just giving you some advice, okay? Next, we have number 19, okay? Number 19, the suggestion in number 19 is much like the suggestion you found previously in number 11, okay? The one thing you don't want to do, which you're going to be tempted to, is a cross multiply. What you want to do is you want to multiply one side by 1, okay? And by 1, you have a choice. You could either multiply by the tangent over the tangent, okay? Or I'm going to choose to multiply the secant of x plus 1 over itself. That's what I'm going to choose to multiply by, okay? And then you should see that the denominator is going to go to, it's of the form a minus ba plus b, which goes to a squared minus b squared. And you should see that that's tangent squared, and then you can see that that should reveal to you the right side of that identity, okay? That's the hint on that one, okay? This number 20, all right, okay. Number 20 is going to be much like number 23. And number 20 is really not going to matter which side you work on, but you're really going to have to turn these into sines and cosines. That's a suggestion. Secant squared is 1 over cosine squared. Cosecant squared is 1 over the sine squared, okay? Now you got to turn everything into sines and cosines, and that's the best option on that. Now, once you turn those into sines and cosines, of course, you have to put them on a common denominator, which is sine squared, cosine squared, okay? And, of course, when you put them on the common denominator, the numerator changes. You should see this turning into the right side, okay? Again, it's for you to complete. This is going to require us to factor, but I can't factor here until I turn everything into an expression involving the sign, okay? After all, you can see everything on the right side is in terms of the sign. So, so I have to redefine my cosine squared with the 1 minus sine squared expression, okay? And I think I'll accommodate the denominator of that as well, okay? Once I then distribute the 3, okay? Once I distribute the 3 and tidy things up there a bit, I should have a recognizable factorable quadratic, okay? I should be able to recognize a factorable quadratic there. So, you know, this you're going to think of as, you know, what I would do is I would probably pull out the negative and then factor this. And remember, this is factored just like 3s squared plus 5s minus 2. So if you factor that, and I subsequently would factor 1 minus sine squared as a difference of squares, you'll have some things to cancel out, and you can work that, you can pursue that one from there, okay? 22, okay? 22 is cosine cubed plus sine cubed should suggest to you the sum of cubes. And when I highlight that, that's what it suggests, a cubed plus b cubed. So again, I'm going to factor, and what you're seeing here is we're going to be using algebraic factoring techniques on trigonometric expressions, okay? So really just, it's a series of substitutions. So that should factor according to this factoring schedule. You know, that was the one where we used SOAP, okay? And then once you do that, you should be able to see a nice clean cancellation, and it should produce the right side, okay? Again, that's for you to do. I'm just advising you, okay? Tan squared, this is the one I said would have been very similar to number 20, whereas it's really suggested you put everything in terms of sines and cosines, and work on it from there. It should turn into the right side, okay? Once you work with the fractions, put them on a common denominator and the like, you should be able to get to that, okay? And 24, okay? You should recognize this again as a factorable quadratic, okay? When I highlight that, one of the options there is to, it doesn't suggest it here, does it? Okay. There should be an option of factoring that, okay? And I'm going to say, guess one of the factors. I'm going to say 1 minus the cosine squared of x. And I think if I suggest that, it's going to, no, it doesn't realize that, but that's okay. This factor, you should recognize that as 1 minus the cosine squared, okay? So it's not providing me the options I want here, but it does factor, okay? So I suggest you work with it from that front. Okay, so that's it for numbers 17 through 24, and that's, you follow those guides, you should be all right.